Of people out there telling you right now, Spider-Man Brand New Day is one of the best superhero movies of all time. It's top tier Marvel. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, it's just all right. Let's get into it. Spider-Man Brand New Day just came out this week. Saw it in theaters a couple of days ago, and now I'm here to reflect on my thoughts on what we have going on in Spider-Man Brand New Day. It's a brand new day for Spider-Man in his fourth movie, Tom Holland in his fourth solo movie, or are they solo? Because there always seems to be some fucking cameos in this shit. But yeah, I thought this was overall a solid superhero movie and better than most of the recent superhero movies that have been coming out, especially in terms of the MCU, and especially Marvel in general. I feel like has been on a little bit of a, it's not been hidden from the public that it's been kind of a lackluster run for Marvel post Endgame. I thought this was a nice return to form, but I do have some problems with the movie. I do think this movie is being a little bit overrated. I found this problem with the Odyssey too, where people are like, this is the best movie of all time. We've caught 2 weeks of heat with this and Odyssey back to back. It's like, yeah, they were both solid movies, but I'm not going to be like, oh my God, remember the summer of 2026. Maybe just for like the moments of like, oh, Odyssey was coming out, everyone was watching it. So then Spider-Man came out, everyone was watching it just for like the moments. But the actual movies, I'm not going to be like, holy shit, I remember I was watching those movies. That being said, though, this is probably my favorite Tom Holland movie of the four. All three of the previous ones have kind of faded in my memory. Nothing really stuck with me there. Homecoming, I think, is overrated. Far From Home, like no one really talks about that movie. And then the most recent one, No Way Home, I feel like that one's kind of just uplifted by the, spoiler alert, the Garfield and Maguire cameos and the other cameos like Daredevil and stuff that people are like, oh, that was great. But when you actually think about the movie, like it's like what really happened, I feel like that was kind of not a great Spider-Man movie, but that's just my opinion. I think Spider-Man Brand New Day tries to really dive in more to the actual Spider-Man character, and they still can't do that because to the 2 hours and 25-minute runtime, we have like 5 to 6 cameos from different MCU characters making their way into this movie. But some of it worked and some of it didn't work, and I'm here to tell you what did and didn't work. So let's get into Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, one of these cameos that I thought was a beautiful addition, the best part of the movie, in my opinion. I thought this character brought everything to the table. It's John Bernthal's Punisher. And I don't know if you needed some sort of background to really understand who the Punisher is. I did go to the movies with three of my other friends. I doubt any of them have ever even seen an episode of The Punisher or Daredevil, and they were laughing right along, feeling Frank Castle's aura, his energy, and what type of character he was. You feel that instantly. So people out there who are like, oh, we never saw them together, we don't need to see them together. We already have a 2 hour, 25-minute movie here. I feel like it was fine. They both live in New York. You have to assume some of these New York characters really get to know each other. It's kind of the mecca of like, it's where everything happens at the beginning of Infinity War. I didn't need a background story on this. We already got a TV special from Punisher, which was like just fine. So I didn't need like extra additional how they met and stuff. They're in the same sort of area. They're in Queens. So it made sense. John Bernthal did a great job as Punisher in this movie. I think this is honestly one of the stronger performances I've seen of him. And yes, it's much more lighthearted than the stuff you're used to seeing in Punisher. Obviously, with Spider-Man, it's much more of a lighthearted energy. It's kind of like that Daredevil and She-Hulk energy. Even though that was a horrible show, John Bernthal is more lighthearted here. He's kind of there to like play off of Tom Holland's character of quit your whimpering, son, and that type of stuff. So I thought John Bernthal was a great addition to this movie. Easily the highlight of this for me, Punisher and Spider-Man. We need more of this moving forward. I doubt John Bernthal will be in Doomsday, but if he is, that'd be awesome. Seeing Frank react to everything and seeing him hang out with Spidey was awesome. That was my favorite part of the movie. I liked the music, and there were some standout scenes that I thought were really good throughout this movie. More like personal Peter stuff, and also him just being Spider-Man that I thought was good. I love the party scene. I love him just swinging around. I love the compilation of him stopping small crimes. I feel like we could have spent some more time with that sort of stuff before moving on to the main sort of villain of the movie. And like the way the plot was structured, I didn't really like a bunch because you kind of have like the main issue solved, and there's like extra parts of the third act that I thought weren't necessary. We'll definitely get into that stuff, but I didn't overall like the plot structuring of this one. It just felt a little bit all over the place, and we're going here to meet certain people, and I don't know. I feel like we'll get into the cameo stuff. So obviously you have MJ and Ned. Now some people didn't like the inclusion of them into this story. I thought they were good into this story. It was good. Like it was mad to me. Overall, though, just how they wrap it up, like I didn't really understand how it really got to that point. I feel like there was some wasted time there because he like goes and meets her at the party, and then she remembers him from the like. It's like I don't know. I feel like the dynamics was a little off there, and we kind of like are forced fed this narrative that he's grieving, even though that was kind of already explained through the one scene that we saw at the end of No Way Home. I feel like we know, we got the message of that, and I don't know if this movie would have been better. I feel like this movie just had so many different focuses that it was like hard to keep track of. Like, well, it was easy to keep track, but it was hard to be like super invested into one storyline. And I've never really like felt, and I know a lot of people hate on Zendaya's acting, and I don't want to like join the mob on that, but like I never really felt like a true love connection between the two. It just has always seemed kind of fake. So I mean, I know they're dating in real life, so whatever. But in the movies, I don't know. It always feels a little weird. So, like I said, too many cameos in this movie. Didn't need Hulk. Didn't need Yelena. Did not need a bunch of other stuff we got. I feel like this would if we just got a simple Spider-Man movie that was like an hour and 45 minutes, it'd be so awesome. That's why people love the Tobey Maguire movies. That's why people love the Andrew Garfield movies. It's simple stories. It's Spider-Man. Like people when they talk about their favorite superhero, it's either Spider-Man or Batman. There's so many things you can do with this. And I saw it posted on X. I don't know how to get proper credit because I don't remember who posted it, but it's like all of Spider-Man's villains have been other people's villains. In the first one, he's fighting Vulture, who's upset with him because of Iron Man. Second one, he's fighting Mysterio, who's trying to go after Iron Man. Third one, he's fighting all the villains from Toby and Andrew's universe. And then in this one, he's fighting a freaking X-Men. Spoiler alert, but like, where's his villain? He has so many villains. If you play the video games or watch freaking Into the Spider-Verse, those are true like representations of Spider-Man just doing his own thing. Like, yeah, and even in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, there's so many cameos like all the other Spider-Man, but it doesn't take away like the development of Miles. I feel like we need more of the actual Peter Parker and him like doing solo. I feel like I thought this was gonna be like a reset to that. Like, okay, he's not really been with the Avengers. There's a time jump, which I didn't even know was gonna happen in this movie. But it's like, oh, we need these cameos from Hulk and Yelena and Punisher, even who I thought was a good addition. But like, if it was just him and Punisher, I thought this would be fire. But all these people that end up jumping into it, it's like, oh, Spider-Man has so many villains too to deal with, and nobody knew who the villain was of this movie. So there's still a chance to just make one solo movie of him like kind of a focused story. I just feel like this one was like a team up movie and it ended up being. So I don't know. I didn't really like the cameos or most of the cameos. Anyways, yeah, Spider-Man could easily be the most complex MCU character if they want him to, but let's just make cameo movies and cameo movies over and over again. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like that decision, but it is what it is. The twist reveal of the movie, yeah, they should have just released what the twist was of Sadie Sink being Jean Grey. This is like one of the biggest question heading into the movie. Who is Jean Grey playing? And no one really knew for sure what was going on, and she wasn't allowed to talk about it, but she's just on press tours. I mean, I don't know. I feel like the twist was fine. It was kind of the shock value was kind of removed just from leaks and like stuff that people knew. It was kind of obvious that she was going to end up being Jean Grey. Now, for me, I've never watched any of the X-Men movies. I never really cared about the X-Men that much, so I didn't really know her powers. So to see like this person who's jumping from person to person, it was cool. And then in the back of my head, though, I'm always like, oh, Sadie Sink's in this movie at some point. And she comes in like halfway through, and then you realize who she is. So I don't know. I thought this was a subpar twist just due to obvious leaks and her sort of taking over the movie towards the end. It becomes her story too. Like it's a Jean Grey movie too, which is crazy. I feel like it's just let's get a Spider-Man movie, man, and we can get a complex villain like a real Green Goblin or a real like Mysterio. Like I guess the Mysterio movie is probably the closest thing we've gotten to that. There's so many people like playing Spider-Man PS5 games, watching Miles Morales. There's so many things you can do with this character. I feel like we don't. He's one of the easiest ones to do too. That you don't need a team up movie. If you want to do like a Doctor Strange and then you have the team up there, it makes sense because there's probably not a lot of things you can do with Doctor Strange, but there's so much stuff you can do with Spider-Man, man. So I was disappointed to see all these cameos. A little bit long of a runtime for me. Felt like we were just kind of throwing in plot points there. Like I said, I think there was too much going on with this plot point. I'm not usually one to complain. 2 hours 25 minutes is fine. I'm fine, super down to sit down and watch a good movie for that time. I just felt like this one ran on a little bit long. Ending, especially the third act, I feel like there's some scenes that extended that didn't need to be there. Music was solid throughout, like I mentioned before. Shout out Tame Impala. I'm a loser, babe. When that song played, I was going crazy. And then we have the post-credit scene, which is one of the worst post-credit scenes in MCU history. I've already made my stance clear on this after watching Deadpool and Wolverine. Got clowned by it by the MCU people. Sorry, not sorry. We need to get rid of these post-credit scenes. And it's so sad. I got up to go to the bathroom, came back. Everyone's still just sitting there. I think I'm done. Like I have to pull it on this one, and it's tough in a group of friends when the standard is you sit there and you watch it. But it's gone too far, man. Where they know we're gonna be sitting our ass in the seats. We had the fucking Charlotte's Throne ice cream cup from like Doctor Strange 2. Nothing has really mattered. Like, and it's a 30-second clip that you could probably easily just look up either what happens or a couple months after the movie. Like, for example, for this one, he's off Earth. Oh, shocker, he's in Doomsday. Like, I never would have guessed that. Like, I'm so done with these post-credit scenes, and they're putting in less and less effort, and they know they have you guys by the teeth. So, as long as you're sitting your ass in that theater watching who's editing it in Norway on the 3rd of January, those types of credits, they want the true credits, I guess, to be seen by everybody. I don't know. I just really want to be done with the post-credit scenes, but I know it's never going to happen, so I'm fighting a losing battle on that. Won't waste too much time on that. Now, let's get into my thoughts and reactions throughout the movie, starting with the beginning of the movie. Now, I thought this was a really solid choice to start with a time jump, and I really loved this opening of him, Peter, doing his own thing. He's 4 years in the future, hanging out with Tina from The Bear. I don't know the actress's name, the chair or the lead of the police, or I guess she's just a police detective. But that was a cool dynamic. That's a big part of the Spider-Man video games as well that I enjoy, hanging out with the chief or whatever. And some things happen with the old chief in the Spider-Man video game, so we'll have to see if that happens with this character. But compilation of him like handling Tombstone. Tombstone's in this movie for like half a second, which is crazy, and Scorpion amongst others. Just really hanging out with those villains for a couple minutes is cool, and seeing him like put people to fight crime. It's what Spider-Man. We want to see the local friendly Spider-Man. We don't need to see him fighting friggin' endgame threats and end of the world threats. So I like the beginning part for sure, and I appreciate them doing a time jump. Like we don't need to pick it up right away. And it was nice to see him like move into the apartment. He's got dust everywhere, but he's just got his monitors and his lab work and stuff like that. So that felt like a true, this is a Peter Parker story that I would actually be willing to enjoy. So I did like the opening of the movie. The idea for a villain. Now, remember I said I don't know who Jean Grey is. Just the idea of this villain who can possess people for half a second, then just jump and jump. I thought that was a pretty interesting idea. We know who it ends up being, and I knew probably it was going to just end up being Jean Grey by just process of elimination that Sadie Singh hadn't been in for a while. But I do like this for a concept for somebody like Spider-Man, who's probably super strong or is super strong, can probably take out most normal villains. We see him pretty much handle Scorpion pretty easily, Tombstone pretty easily on a daily basis. Probably could handle most of his villain universe pretty easily, unless they're like getting up to some shit. So interesting idea for this character to play in with Spider-Man, who this character probably fucks up other sort of heroes, but Spider-Man's one of the more powerful heroes. So I like that kind of dynamic there. And it's interesting to see this person who kind of eludes Spider-Man, where Spider-Man has his spidey sense, is masked up on his own, but is not able to figure out who this is or what's going on here. So that was kind of a fun chase for the first half of the movie, and this mysterious figure completely alpha Spider-Man and learns he's Peter Parker, kind of taunts in his face a bunch of times. So that was a good part of the movie, I thought, for sure, was this villain. Of course it ends up being Jean Grey who ends up taking over the movie, but I like the beginning part of this, the cat and mouse game between the two. Like I mentioned before, did not need Yelena in this movie, especially. I thought her cameo stuck out as one of just being there, just to be there. He enters her office, which was a fun scene of she's completely naked in the pool or whatever. But it's what's the connection here? I feel like they're just trying to speed run us to Endgame or to Doomsday of when Spider-Man runs into Yelena and Hulk and these other characters, they'll know who he is because Yelena is now this new leader of the New Avengers or whatever. It's just this didn't need to be there. This could have been a fun scene in the beginning of Doomsday. I just didn't think the scene needed to be there. I feel like they've kind of, even people were complaining about the Punisher and Spider-Man relationship, like I mentioned before. They're just rushing relationships just to get through it. They're not building the camaraderie that we had in the first Avengers saga that made it so great of oh, here's what would happen if Steve met Iron Man for the first time. Is just probably going to be assumed in Doomsday, since they're throwing fucking everything at the wall because they don't trust their heroes that they've built up in the past couple of years. It's oh, we already know what they're going to be like when they meet each other because this is what happens. So we never even get to see Spider-Man meet any of these people. And Yelena, I love Yelena. I think she's a great character in the MCU. I think she's potentially even more interesting than her sister, but I didn't need to see her in a fucking Spider-Man Brand New Day. And that, to be honest, that was the one movie or the one cameo that caught me by surprise, because Bruce Banner's going to be in it. Punisher's going to be in it through the trailer. People were speculating on Jean Grey, but I was not expecting to see Yelena in this one, and I guess she's starring in it. So I guess I just missed that, which is good. It's good to be surprised every now and then. But I didn't need her in this one. I feel like she didn't add that much in the movie. I feel like they were just doing cameos just to do cameos and like catch us up to speed on like, oh, here's when they meet in the future movies. Didn't like that part. And the actual scene itself is funny, but the idea of it wasting time with other cameos, I'm good. We also have a big storyline that I have yet to mention. This one, his mutating. Spider-Man is mutating in this movie, and this I felt like was just a shallow plot point to get him to move along to have like the web shooters just come naturally out of his wrists, in terms of instead of the like manufactured web shooters he built. I feel like there wasn't really too much deep diving into that, of the actual mutation. It's just like, oh, you need to inhibit yourself and limit yourself. And then he like wakes up like the one scene of him like waking up in the middle on the top of a building. He like, can't control it. But we never really like dive too deep into it for something to be like that matters a bunch to me. I guess he uses it at the end, like power up again. It just felt like that was there just to kind of yada yada along his physical development and get him in like a stronger place before the Avengers movies, in my opinion. I don't know. It's one of those like there's so much stuff thrown at you in this movie. You have Hulk, you have Jean Grey, you have Yelena, you have he's developing mutations. You also have the Ned and MJ storyline. You have Punisher going on. You have villain Scorpion. You have mind control. It's just like I feel like they just like threw up like 10 to 15 buzzwords on a whiteboard and were like, let's make this work. And some of it did work, but some of it didn't work. I don't know. I didn't really care too much about the mutation stuff. I know probably the Spider-Man geeks, and I'm actually really worried I'm going to get flamed in the comments. I actually don't really care that much, but I know Spider-Man people are up in arms. I know they're one of the stronger fan bases out there, so we'll have to see what they say about this review. But I don't know. I didn't find that scenes to be too like enlightening or too enriching, too entertaining. I don't know. Didn't really care about the mutation part. Hulk, I thought the conversation with Bruce Banner was pretty cool. The actual fight with Hulk, not sure I needed that one as well, but it was actually cool to see Hulk back in his true form of being this like wrecker guy instead of the Hulk we saw in the most recent movies and shows of him being this like mix between Banner and Hulk, and he's got the glasses on. So him being like angry again was cool. But I don't know if we needed that in this movie. It's like there's so many there's so many Spider-Man villains, and you're having him fight against Hulk and Jean Grey. It's like, we're missing out on so much potential there. And maybe there's gonna be a new Spider-Man in the future that they can just kind of reset this shit like they did with like Superman in the DCU. I don't know. A lot of people's theories on this was that Hulk would remember who Peter Parker is because he was Hulk. When Hulk was Hulk, he knew who Spider-Man was. But when he's Bruce Banner, he doesn't. But none of that really comes to fruition at all in this movie. It doesn't really matter at all. No one really remembers at all. So, yeah. Jean Grey reveal. Yay. I don't really care about the X-Men, but that was cool, I guess, to get an introduction to her. So we know that she's going to be in the next X-Men movie along with Indy Navarrete, and a bunch of other people have been announced for that movie. So we'll have to see if I go check that one out. And I know that'll be a big part of the MCU moving forward because they're running out of time with their characters. We're bringing back Cap for Doomsday, which we'll talk about when that movie comes out. But I don't know if this needs to be done in a Spider-Man movie. I don't want to like keep harping on this point, but Jean Grey's in here. Yay, she's the main villain. So that was a cool moment of seeing her name on the little document. So the MJ stuff I thought actually was peaking when they have the moment where she's like apologizing to him that she can't love him like that other girl that she doesn't know because she doesn't remember did. I thought that was probably the strongest moment of like Peter's like, damn, there's really nothing I can do to get her back, and she's acknowledging like, hey, that sucks, but like I'm not gonna like fake my life just to get back with you and make you happy. I got a man's now. I can't just pretend and fake my life to give it up for you and pretend like I know what's going on when it's been years and I forget everything. So I did like that was some of the stronger stuff of her doing that and her also finding the letter that he wrote to her and being like, why didn't you tell me this? And then, I bet they'll end up back together, which is stupid. But the stuff of her being like, I'm past this and I can't just fake being with you just for the hell of it. I'm not going to like fake my life. I like that stuff. In terms of the MJ stuff, some of the other stuff was a little corny, but whatever. Jean, this becomes the Jean movie in the third act where she creates a force field over the city after finding out her sister was killed. Her sister seemed like a cool gal, so I'm kind of sad we don't get to see her. Maybe we'll see her in more like flashback scenes. But she causes a like thing over the whole city after realizing this defense people who are like the real villain of the movie are going to torture her. The force field was kind of nuts over the city. Kind of reminded me of like some stuff they did early on. I forget what that reminded me of. But her still wanting to like be angry at Spider-Man didn't make a ton of sense. I guess she's grieving in the moment. But once again, the power of friendship wins when he lets her into his mind, and she sees that Aunt May cares about people and doesn't care if you have power. She's still going to be the same great Marissa Tomei to you, and that solves Jean Grey's grieving and allows her to be allied up with Spider-Man. So, yeah, but not only that, Punisher was on the rooftop with a sniper, ready to aim it down at the force field. It was going to shoot Jean Grey in the head just because that's what Punisher does, I guess, is just set up snipers and just, take a shot when Spider-Man's holding her, and he can clearly see that. This is the part I thought was pretty stupid. Him still firing that bullet hits Spider-Man in the shoulder, and I will give it to them. There was like a solid 10 to 15 seconds where I was like, holy fuck, Spider-Man might have just fucking died on screen. Like we might have just lost Tom Holland. But then you remember it's the MCU and like nothing's that simple. And also they'd probably just bring it back if he died anyway, so the stakes weren't actually that real. Anyways, it led to some good stuff with Frank, with him like crying bedside, and I'm sure that probably ate him alive. It kind of sucks that had to happen to Frank, where like he's been so careful about who he kills and stuff like that. That was a little bit of an annoying part to me, but we got through it. And Frank pretending to be Spider-Man while Spider-Man is allowed to just walk out of the hospital was pretty cool. That was funny. Tons of funny Frank stuff. I'm not going to bring up all the little scenes, but pretty much every scene that had Frank in it was awesome. So yeah, big part of the why I'm boosting this movie up in my opinion. And then we have the ending, which I didn't love, of Ned still knowing Peter somehow through their handshake. I guess it's like a ritual thing of like, I was brainwashed, but I still know how to do the handshake because that part doesn't affect it or something like that. Like I haven't really looked into this, researched why Ned still knows who Peter is. But I just thought that was kind of a corny ending, in my opinion. Like, I think this movie would have been so much better if he's like, MJ's like, yeah, you're cool, like you saved me and shit, and you're looking out for me. I respect that, but I'm not the same chick you were with. I got to move on. And then he's like, oh shit, like I won't try and like barge in on Ned or anything. And I guess they instantly run into each other at the store. But I feel like it just went too kidsy, and I get it because like kids are probably seeing this on opening night. It's like, oh, Ned and MJ are gonna get back with them, but it's like we're 4 movies through with this. It's time to move on, man. So I didn't love the ending of Ned still knowing him. Post credit scene, I already kind of did my piece on that, but just a waste of time. And when I just thought of this in my head. When I'm gonna have kids in a couple years, and we go to see MCU movies, we're leaving, and they're gonna be like, "Why are they still sitting there?" I'm like, "They love wasting time, guys. We don't waste time in my household. We're leaving. We're walking right out of this joint." But all that being said, I thought this wasn't a bad movie. Like I thought this was a pretty good superhero movie for what it was. I just feel like there was a little bit too much mixed in there, and some of those stories I didn't like, but there was some of the story that I really did like. So I'm gonna land this at a 7.9, solid score. I didn't hate it, but it's not truly a great movie in my opinion. But it is good. It is would describe as like a good Spider-Man movie. It just gets from it does the job for what you're looking for most of the time. So even though I feel like I'm challenging Marvel to be better, you can make a Spider-Man movie that's a 9 so easily with all of his characters and kick out all these extra people. But I know they're trying to build this universe and stuff. So just the way it all transpired, I'm going to give it a 7.9 on Spider-Man Brand New Day. What would you score Spider-Man Brand New Day? I feel like a lot of people out there are loving this one. I know for me, I'm always been a Batman over Spider-Man guy. That's been kind of the debate I've been hearing the last couple of years. But for me, it's easily Batman. So Spider-Man, I'm not as invested, but I still will check out all these MCU movies. So 7.9 for me on Spider-Man Brand New Day. Probably the best MCU movie reviewed on the channel. Well, I know we'll get into that. We'll get into comparison of the other movies reviewed so far on the channel. So Spider-Man Brand New Day is the 115th movie reviewed so far. It is number 47 of those movies. So in the top half, in the top 40% right there, in the middle of all the 7.9s as well. We have a bunch of actors to compare this movie to. So in Tom Holland, the only other Tom Holland movie I reviewed is Odyssey, which I gave an 8.3. So this becomes the new lowest Tom Holland movie. Dune Part 2, I gave a 9.0. Dune Point 1, I gave an 8.5. Odyssey, I gave an 8.3. Zendaya and all of those movies. This becomes the new lowest Zendaya movie. Wind River, I gave a 9.3, Sicario an 8.4, Odyssey an 8.3, Shot Caller a 7.9, but a higher 7.9, and then I gave The Amateur a 7.8, so this becomes the second lowest John Bernthal movie. So crazy that I've seen now, what is that, 6 John Bernthal movies, that's awesome. Loses out to Dune and beats out Thunderbolts. Florence Pugh in both those movies beats out My Cousin Vinny. Marissa Tomei in both those movies loses out to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Beats out Now You See Me, Mark Ruffalo in both of those movies. And in terms of the superhero movies we've reviewed so far, we've been making some progress on that. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I gave an 8.9, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I gave an 8.5. Much more solid Spider-Man movies in my opinion. Superman, I gave an 8.2. Deadpool and Wolverine, I gave a 7.8. Fantastic Four, First Steps, I gave a 7.6. Thunderbolts, I gave a 7.5. And Captain America, Brave New World, I gave a 5.8. So when it comes to Marvel, this is the best Marvel movie I've seen, if you exclude the animated movies, which I don't know if those count in the MCU. But we're slowly ticking up with MCU. So maybe we'll get to 8 or 9 with Doomsday. We'll have to see how that goes. But that's where I'll leave it for Spider-Man Brand New Day. What was your guys' thoughts on Spider-Man Brand New Day? I've seen a lot of high comments, but there are people out there, I'm sure, who didn't like this movie or not didn't, but aren't gassing it up to the moon. You know, I feel like it's solid, but it's not something crazy. So we'll have to see what people overall settle on with Brand New Day and its legacy in the future. So what's coming up on the Dubcast? We got movie reviews coming out, old movies mostly. There isn't anything really that I'm looking to go see in the theaters until like September or October or so, but that could always change. So expect to see Drive, Blue Velvet, and then some other reviews we'll have queued up after that for old movies. In terms of TV shows, we have House of the Dragon. Did my short recap on that. Not sure when this video will come out, but we might have went live and already did a recap with some guests on the penultimate episode of season 3 for that, and then we'll be covering the finale for House of the Dragon. Silo, we're halfway through the Silo season, covering every episode with a short and a long one as well. Other TV shows are happening soon. Not sure how I'll cover those, but we have that last season, Outer Banks. We have Ted Lasso came back for some reason. There's a bunch of other stuff coming out. Reacher season 4. So who knows how I'll cover those shows. The show, honestly, it's been a lot of content because I don't want to flood y'all with content. So I'm trying to do one video a day. So with shows, doing a short and a long one, it gets complicated in terms of that. And then sports, we have UFC 330 coming up this month. I believe it's in the middle of August. And then we'll get back to the NFL season. We'll do a pre-season stream for that, doing win totals, how we're feeling about all the teams, and then we'll be back with the weekly videos on that. So hope you guys loved the video. Subscribe, like, comment. Disagree with me. You know, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I had a lot of people disagreeing with me on that. Odyssey, I had some people calling me whack for giving it as low of a grade as I did. So curious to see what the actual public's thoughts are on Spider-Man Brand New Day, not just people I see gassing it up. So curious to hear y'all's thoughts in the comments. Would love to start a dialogue with y'all there. And as always, be easy, y'all.